Incredible moment, single dad discovers hidden strengths after female CEO's shocking plea. Jack twisted the last screw into the lawnmower's chassis and wiped the sweat from his brow, glancing over at Mrs. Anderson's ramshackle garden. He felt invigorated by the task, but that sense of accomplishment quickly fizzled into an oppressive weight settling on his chest. It had been 2 years since Lily's mother had passed, and despite his daily grind fixing cars by day, delivering pizzas by night, Jack was still sinking deeper into financial despair. Watching the world around him shift and thrive while he fought to stay afloat was unbearable. A nervous knot grew tighter in his gut as the shadows lengthened. From a distance, Ava observed, her sharp business instincts on high alert. She noted Jack's steady hands and patient demeanor, qualities that were far too rare. But as the sun dipped lower, it was the pulse of anxiety in the man's gaze that captivated her. Jack was physically present but tethered by invisible chains of grief and self-doubt, feeling like an imposter among those who had exceeded him professionally. The dry breath of fear coursed through him continuously, fear that he was losing touch with his daughter and with his own worth. "Jack, you've always been a hard worker," Mrs. Anderson remarked, pulling him from his thoughts. Her words barely scratched the surface of his turmoil. Did she even know how difficult it had become just to keep a semblance of stability? As he packed up his tools, a figure approached with an air of authority, and he instinctively straightened up. Ava, glamorous and commanding, moved toward him. Her very presence radiated possibility and, paradoxically, a daunting disconnect. "Hi, I'm Ava," she began, eyes sparkling with honest ambition. She wasted no time in presenting her proposition, a community initiative in dire need of mechanical expertise and a person who understood the struggles of families like his. Jack blinked, confusion tinged with a flicker of hope. This was it, an opportunity was resting before him. But as a rush of excitement coiled within him, so too did a gnarled mess of doubt. How could an auto mechanic like him help run anything of substance? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jack felt heavy words choke him as Ava stared expectantly. He wrestled with his feelings, an internal tug of war. He desired to forge a better life for Lily, to provide a future unclouded by the specter of loss. Yet he was steeped in a life that felt eternally like one backward step after another, a hamster wheel with no escape. The thought of leaving the garage behind felt like betrayal, a test of loyalty to the community he called home. The very idea of stepping into a corporate environment was terrifying. Would he just be seen as a cog in a machine, or worse, a failure? Then the ominous specter of a rival corporation loomed on the horizon, with intent to exploit the struggles of families like his own. Fear sharpened into clarity. He fought for Lily's future but risked losing the very roots of his identity. The path before him twisted and turned, hinting at shadows of ambition and insecurity, pushing down on him with relentless pressure. As Jack grappled with his next move, the stakes became clearer. The air thickened with anticipation as he faced a life-altering crossroads. Would he sacrifice everything he'd known for a glimmer of hope? Would this promise to Lily hold the real possibility of change, or would it consume him? The answer felt tantalizingly close yet simultaneously out of reach, as reality closed in, leaving Jack teetering on the brink of a break he had never wanted. Jack's throat tightened as Ava's proposition hung in the air like an uninvited specter. It was a lifeline he hadn't realized he was grasping for, yet it filled him with trepidation. He wanted to respond, needed to, but the words tangled in his mind like strands of a broken engine. "What do you think?" Ava's optimistic tone jolted him from his reverie, her polished confidence a stark contrast to his inner turmoil. Taking a deep breath, Jack forced his mind to engage. The thought of participating in something larger than himself sparked a flicker of hope, yet the burden of expectation weighed heavily. "You really think I could help?" Ava regarded him keenly, the energy between them shifting. "I see potential in you that's waiting to be recognized, Jack. Your experience with mechanics, your understanding of how families struggle, it's more valuable than you realize. For a moment, he felt a spark of something he had almost forgotten, a flicker of belief in himself. Yet, doubt clawed at his insides. I don't have any formal training for anything like that. What if I end up failing again? Failure isn't the end, Jack. It's a stepping stone. Her words were imbued with genuine encouragement. What's important is that you care, and you want to make a difference. Jack's heart raced as he wrestled with conflicting emotions. Could he really step into that light? The weight of the past, the guilt of his losses, and the scars of struggle loomed large. Yet, in this moment, something shifted inside him. An inflection point. What if failure wasn't something to fear, but rather a space for growth? He remembered the first time he repaired a stubborn engine. The victory wasn't simply in the result, but in the satisfaction of knowing he had tackled a significant challenge. Could this be similar? The thought provided solace, a perspective he hadn't summoned before. Okay, he said quietly, finding new strength in his resolve. I'll consider it. But it's not just about me, it's about Lily. I can't let her down. Ava's smile broadened. That's exactly right. It starts with wanting more for yourself and for her. They continued to talk, ideas flowing back and forth like the rhythm of a well-tuned machine. Each interaction peeled back layers of uncertainty, unearthed dormant skills, and ignited a spark of ambition Jack hadn't felt in years. However, the road ahead was still daunting. For every step forward, shadows whispered doubts that were deeply ingrained. Jack needed a plan, an actionable strategy that could weave together his current skills with the expectations of a larger role. As their conversation concluded, Ava handed him her business card, the embossed letters pressing against his fingertips, both a provocation and a promise. Call me when you're ready. We can work on this together. Now he stood alone on the sidewalk, card in hand, staring down the long stretch of possibility. The tension tightened within him again, the weight of ingrained fears and apprehension clawing at his resolve. Yet, the thought of a future unbound by the chains of grief and loss began to take root. One looming thought circled his mind. What if he could not only change his future but also help others like him, families he related to intimately? The ball was now in his court, pulsating with potential, ready to be taken or tossed away. The sun dipped below the horizon, shadows deepening. Jack took a deep breath, inhaling the bracing chill of impending change. The decision to start moving toward a new chapter had been made, but he still needed to wrestle with the specter of risk. What if he stepped beyond his comfort zone, truly embraced the unfamiliar? A new identity awaited him, but once ventured into unknown territory, what hidden fears would be unearthed? The moment of truth approached, and he could feel the guttering flame of old struggles flickering under the weight of his own aspirations. As he turned to head home, uncertainty gripped him once more. Was he ready to face the depths of his own potential? Or was he destined to remain in a cycle of self-inflicted limitations? The answer lay just out of reach, somewhere within the choices he would soon have to make. Jack had scarcely slept, the card still burning in his pocket like a promise of possibilities. Each hour was punctuated by the foreboding thoughts nagging at him, echoing Ava's words about potential and failure. The morning light filtered through his bedroom window, half-heartedly illuminating a space filled with shadows of yesterday. As he sat on the edge of his bed, he wondered if those shadows would ever recede or if his past would always loom above him. He resolved to begin mapping out his future, a feasible strategy to transition into something more than a mechanic, something more than a dad trapped in regret. All the parts of his life that felt disassembled now needed to come together. But where to start? His mind raced as heavy uncertainty draped over him like a fog. After breakfast, he pulled out a notepad and began to sketch out the skills Ava had identified. Mechanics, communication, empathy each represented a piece of the gear system he could assemble. Yet, this wasn't enough. He needed raw material, knowledge to fortify his foundation. He thought about the local community center that often held workshops. Could they provide courses or networking opportunities? With determination, he decided to take a walk to the center. Each step felt significant, echoing with the determination to change not only his trajectory but also the dialogue he would have with his daughter. For too long, he had allowed his fears to dictate their narrative. As he entered the center's lobby, the buzz of voices and laughter enveloped him. Middle-aged women chatted about an upcoming craft fair while children dashed across the hall, laughter trailing in their wake. It felt foreign and disconcerting. Jack had spent too long in isolation. Could he actually navigate this environment? His heart raced as he approached the reception desk, the woman behind it smiling warmly. "Can I help you?" "I'm looking for workshops or programs that could help with, well, personal development," he stammered, fighting the urge to retreat. She teetered forward, her eyes filled with curiosity. "We offer a variety of classes. Are you looking to develop skills for a specific job or interests?" Words tumbled out before he could think them through. "Something in community service. You know, helping families. I just need a way to connect." The receptionist's nod was encouraging. "That's wonderful. We have a few upcoming seminars focused on mentorship specifically tailored for individuals who have faced challenges and want to help others through them. Would you like to sign up?" He could feel the weight of engagement pulling him in. "Yes, please," he replied, the tremor of uncertainty fading. As he scribbled his name on the sign-up sheet, anticipation ignited within him. He was no longer the passive observer of his life trajectory, he was actively steering it. But as he handed over the slip, another wave of doubt washed over him. What if he wasn't enough? What if they saw him as an imposter, a scrubby mechanic with nothing to offer? In that moment, he realized he had to confront this inner critic. He could no longer allow his doubts to mingle with his ambition. With each challenge he faced, from repairing a car to stepping up for Lily, he had built resilience. There was strength in acknowledging fears, as they were all based on past failures rather than present potential. Leaving the center, the sun beamed down as if illuminating a new path. For the first time in years, he could envision a version of himself not swallowed by grief but rather buoyed by newfound purpose. But a pivotal confrontation awaited. What if those old reservations surfaced in training sessions, or worse, during mentorship? As he walked home, the gnawing worry returned, mingling with the thrill of possibility. Answers were merely steps away, but the looming specter of confrontation lingered. Could he truly transform his fear into tools for hope? At that moment, a text message buzzed on his phone. It was Ava. "Ready to talk strategy this week?" A wave of anxiety crashed over him. The stakes felt real now, the decision entirely his. Would he embrace vulnerability and allow others to see his raw edges? Or retreat, staying within the confines of familiar unease? The crossroads were looming, and Jack finally had to ask himself, when faced with the depths of his potential, would he rise? Or would he let old scars dictate his path once again? As Jack settled onto his couch, the phone still buzzing with the echo of Ava's text, the gravity of the situation weighed upon him like an anchor. This wasn't just about mentorship, it was about redefining his life. He stared at the screen, pulse quickening with each tick of the clock. Soon, it would be time to confront his past, and he felt queasy. The prospect of discussing strategy with Ava threw him into a mental spiral, demanding that he evaluate his approach to not only his own aspirations but also what he might have to offer to others. He had always grounded himself in the tangible, fixing broken engines, mastering the mechanics of machinery. Emotions and aspirations felt foreign, a slippery fog pushing him deeper into self-doubt. But perhaps it was time to unearth those botched attempts at connection. This meeting could be the catalyst he needed to break free. Pulling out his notepad from earlier that day, he began jotting down thoughts that had previously felt chaotic inside his mind. This exercise should come easily, but the frayed edges of his confidence threatened to unravel it all. He wrote career development at the top, underlined it, and immediately began to second-guess everything he thought he had to offer. What expertise could he possibly share in this realm? Taking a deep breath, he forced himself to focus. He began to list his strengths, fighting the knee-jerk instinct to erase them. Problem-solving, a skill honed over years in the garage. Empathy, lessons learned as he navigated his own struggles in parenting. The more he wrote, the clearer it became. These weren't mere traits, they were vital links to the mentorship he wanted to pursue. When he couldn't hear other voices in his head over his own, he popped open a window. Fresh air swept through the room, stirring a newfound wave of clarity. What if instead of viewing himself as an imposter, he embraced the unique fusion of experiences that shaped him? He pictured Lily, her light-hearted laughter a reminder that he had every reason to step beyond the confines of fear. Pushing aside the nagging self-doubt, he drafted a few talking points for his impending conversation with Ava. What did he want from their discussion? He would be honest about his feelings of inadequacy yet assertive in showcasing the potential he had to offer. Vulnerability would be his ally, not his enemy. As dusk settled, painting the walls with soft shadows, a whirlpool of anticipation enveloped him. This meeting with Ava could very well shape the path ahead, and he couldn't afford to let anxiety dictate the narrative any longer. He input her contact number, his finger hovering over the call icon. But the ringing of his wife's phone sent his adrenaline into overdrive. Why did she have to pick now to reach out after months of silence? He hesitated, heart racing, but his resolve hardened. This was his life now, not some distant history willing to ambush him at every corner. Ignoring the call, he focused his thoughts. Each pulse of adrenaline narrowed his focus, sharpening his intent to move forward. He couldn't afford to let the past intrude on the new opportunities forming before him. As he paced, the gears of his mind began to mesh. He envisioned a new vitality not just for himself but as a legacy for Lily. He felt raw with possibility, digging deeper for the strengths he discovered not just through mechanics but through the resilience of personal challenges. Sending a brief reply to Ava, agreeing to meet, he felt the last vestiges of doubt fizzle into a tenacious flame of purpose. The next hours promised transformation, but they wouldn't come without their own hurdles. What if Ava's insights brought to light a difficult truth he hadn't considered? What if the stakes were higher than he had anticipated? These looming questions lingered, swirling in the back of his mind as the phone buzzed once more. Jack braced himself, knowing the moment of confrontation was nearing. And with it, the potential to confront not just his fears but to embrace the evolution of who he was destined to become. Each step felt crucial. The answer lay in his willingness to confront what he truly wanted to achieve. He was at the precipice of growth, but would he plunge into the unknown? With a deep breath, he hit send, feeling as if he had crossed an invisible boundary. The only question left was, what would Ava reveal when they met, and would it change the trajectory of his complete transformation? The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows through Jack's window as he prepared for his meeting with Ava. Nervous energy pulsed through him. This was a monumental step towards shaping not just a career, but a new identity. He glanced at the clock again, the hands creeping steadily to the appointed hour, and moved toward the door with an unfamiliar resolve. Each step felt like a small victory, his heart pounding with anticipation and anxiety. Arriving at the cafe, a familiar place buzzing with the scent of roasted coffee and clinking dishes, he took a moment to collect himself. He positioned himself at a corner table, eyes scanning the crowd, a mix of hope and trepidation swirling in his gut. He noticed a group of students discussing their projects animatedly, their passion evident as they shared ideas. It struck him then he had once felt that fiery enthusiasm about his own work, a feeling he desperately wanted to reclaim. Ava entered, confidence radiating from her with every step. She spotted Jack and offered a warm smile, which eased some of his anxiety. As she approached, he could sense the magnetic energy she carried, a force he hoped to harness. They exchanged pleasantries, but underneath the surface, Jack's mind raced, searching for the right words to convey his thoughts. Once seated, Ava leaned slightly forward, her attention unwavering. "I'm excited to hear your ideas, Jack. What have you been thinking about?" Her tone was engaging, urging him to delve deeper. Jack cleared his throat, steeling himself for the conversation. "I've been reflecting not just on what I want, but how I can contribute to others." The admission felt both liberating and terrifying. "I've spent so long fixing machines and solving technical problems that I've overlooked the value of sharing those experiences and insights with someone who might benefit from them." Ava nodded, encouraging him to elaborate. He saw her genuine interest, and it sparked a flame of conviction within him. Jack spoke of his years spent in the garage, the lessons learned about patience, perseverance, and the strength it takes to repair not just machines but relationships as well. He realized he had a reservoir of strength built from his personal trials, one that could empower someone else in their journey. But what about the moments when you felt like giving up? How did you push through? Ava's question was incisive, cutting through the surface and prompting a deeper reflection. Jack hesitated, the truth crystallizing in his mind. It was never a straight path. There had been many moments when doubt and despair loomed heavily. It's hard to admit, he started slowly, the vulnerability washing over him. I often felt inadequate, like I wasn't enough for my daughter, for anyone. But I remember a time when I helped a neighbor fix his car. He was so grateful, and it made me see how I could contribute positively, even if just in small ways. Ava's eyes glinted with a mixture of admiration and challenge. That's profound, Jack. A lot of people face that same doubt. It's the way we respond to those feelings that can set us apart. Have you thought about how you might use your experiences to guide others? Her words hung in the air, heavy with challenge. Jack could feel a paradigm shift occurring within him. She wasn't just listening. She was igniting a realization in him that he hadn't allowed himself to entertain fully. Perhaps mentoring others wasn't merely a job, it was a platform for both healing and growing. I want to show others that even amidst chaos and uncertainty, they can find their unique strengths. I want them to know they're not alone. Each word carried the weight of his yearning for connection. Ava leaned back, twinkling enthusiasm evident in her expression. That kind of clarity is key, Jack. Don't underestimate the power of your narrative in inspiring others. The conversation flowed seamlessly from there, Jack feeling an undeniable shift. With each passing minute, he embraced the idea that he could be more than just a fixer of engines, he could be a motivator, a mentor, a father who equipped his daughter with the tools to navigate life's unpredictabilities. However, as the meeting drew to a close, a chilling thought emerged: was he truly ready for such a significant responsibility? The thrill of newfound purpose was overshadowed by the weight of self-expectation. What if he faltered? What if his hidden strengths were not enough? As they finalized their discussion, Jack felt a mixture of exhilaration and fear. Ava had ignited a spark, but what if it flickered out too soon? The road ahead was still murky, filled with revelations and uncertainties. Can we touch base again soon? Jack asked, the urgency in his voice palpable. Absolutely, she replied, a confident smile gracing her face. He walked away from the cafe feeling lighter yet burdened by the idea that he held the key not only to his transformation but to enabling others as well. But was he truly equipped for this journey? As he stepped out into the night, his mind raced with the possibilities. Could he truly turn personal pain into a source of strength for others? The questions buzzed in his head. This was only the beginning, but with every step, he sensed the engaging pull of his destiny. What unforeseen challenges awaited him as he journeyed down this new path? How would he confront the shadows of self-doubt that still lingered? As the cool evening air wrapped around him, Jack felt a sense of urgency mingled with trepidation. He attempted to process the exchange with Ava, her words echoing in the corners of his mind like a persistent melody. Each thought felt like a stepping stone, guiding him toward an uncertain future he had only just begun to grasp. On his drive home, the headlights of passing cars illuminated fragments of his resolve. Jack gripped the steering wheel tightly, knowing that his life was at a crossroads. Mentoring others, was it merely an abstract aspiration, or did he truly possess the ability to foster growth in someone else? Images of his daughter floated into view. All he wanted was for her to see him as a man of strength and purpose. But how could he instill those values if he couldn't even fully acknowledge them in himself? Arriving home, he parked the car and stepped inside, where the light from the kitchen beckoned. His daughter was sprawled on the floor, surrounded by school projects. Despite her messy appearance, she was a picture of focus, absorbed in her world of paper and colors. "Hey, Dad," she chirped, glancing up with a smile that could tear down his walls. In that instant, the weight of responsibility pressed heavy again, her expectations foisting upon him an awareness he could no longer ignore. "Hey, kiddo," he managed, returning her smile as he knelt beside her. The chatter of school life spilled from her lips, an unbroken stream of enthusiasm that contrasted sharply with his inner turmoil. He admired her carefree spirit. She reminded him that passion could originate from vulnerability. That thought resonated with him. Wasn't he still learning how to navigate his own path? "Can I show you something?" she asked, her eyes sparkling. With a nod, Jack followed as she grabbed his hand, leading him to a makeshift art space cluttered with supplies. There was so much joy radiating from her every move. "I worked on something special for you." Lying on the table, nestled between scattered brushes, was a drawing of him, sawdust and tools in his hands, heart clearly visible. Underneath, she had written, "My daddy, the fixer." Her innocent proclamation hit him like a tidal wave. Here he was, doubting his ability to contribute anything meaningful, yet in her eyes, he was a hero. "Wow," he breathed, soaking in the lines of the drawing. "This is amazing. Thank you." He pulled her close, embracing her tightly, a sense of clarity washing over him. Maybe he had more to offer than he thought. "Can I show you how to fix things tomorrow?" she asked suddenly, the sparkle in her eyes transforming into a challenge. The question lingered in the air, and Jack's heart skipped. "You want to learn?" "Yeah. I mean, I think I can, right? Like how you taught me to ride a bike." "You're right," he replied, a new sense of purpose igniting within him. Suddenly, he no longer felt like an imposter in this mentoring role. Planning the next day in his mind, Jack felt a warm wave of determination. He could do this. He could not only teach her about fixing engines but instill the resilience he had barely begun to embrace. As he continued with their evening routine, thoughts of mentoring swam back into focus, no longer daunting but exciting. But with this sense of purpose came the thought of Ava again. Their conversation had set a spark in motion that could not easily be extinguished. What would be the next step? How would he channel this newfound commitment to not just being a father, but an active participant in mentoring others? The questions refused to settle, teasing him with potential challenges on the road ahead. That night, as he lay in bed, the uncertainty of what was to come felt palpable. Could he truly embrace this journey of empowerment for both his daughter and himself? What awaited him as he stepped further into this commitment of growth and guidance? Closing his eyes, he willed himself to find clarity within the chaos. In the hushed silence of the night, a resolve built inside him, signaling that the time had come to start not just his own journey of redemption, but to become a beacon for others too. Jack understood he was poised not just to reach for his dreams, but to uncover the hidden strengths that had lingered beneath the surface all along. And just as he began to drift into a determined sleep, he wondered who, or what, could be the next to challenge him and demand he rise to the occasion. Dawn broke with a soft light filtering through the blinds, illuminating the room with a warm glow that felt both inviting and pressing. Jack awoke with a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. Today was the day he had promised his daughter, a day that felt like a turning point in a journey he had only just embraced. He got out of bed and moved through the morning routine with purpose. Each task, from pouring cereal to packing lunch, underscored the significance of his newfound role as a mentor, not just to his daughter but to himself. As he watched her munching happily, scribbling notes on her school projects, he couldn't help but analyze every aspect of their relationship. It was a dance, a balance of teacher and student that needed nurturing from both sides. "Ready to learn?" he asked, leaning against the kitchen counter, a hint of excitement in his voice. "Definitely," she chirped, her enthusiasm contagious. They transformed the garage into a makeshift workshop, cluttered with tools, spare parts, and the smell of motor oil that awakened Jack's memories of simpler times, a time when he felt competent and assured in his abilities. As he gathered the tools he would need to teach her the basics of fixing the lawnmower, he felt a pang of nostalgia underpinned by an unforeseen determination. Today was going to be different. "Okay, the first thing to remember is to always take safety seriously," Jack instructed as he donned a pair of grease-streaked gloves. He could see his daughter's brow furrow in concentration, her little hands mimicking his every move. As he explained the importance of each tool, their dynamics shifted. Here, he was not only a father, he was a guide, imbuing lessons of diligence, patience, and problem-solving. "Why is this important again?" she asked, her voice small yet inquisitive. "It's not just about fixing things, sweetheart. It's about developing a mindset believing you can tackle challenges. Just like riding a bike, remember?" She nodded, but Jack noted the flicker of doubt in her expressive eyes that mirrored his own struggles. "Can I really do it?" she whispered, almost to herself, as she hesitated to reach for a wrench. Jack paused, struck by the weight of responsibility resting on his shoulders. How could he teach her self-belief when he still battled his own insecurities? "Of course you can. You know, even I doubt myself sometimes. But what matters is that we keep trying," he encouraged, pushing aside his own uncertainties with a wave of resolve. As the sun climbed higher, lessons turned into laughter. Jack marveled at how his daughter's personality shone brighter with each minor victory. When she successfully connected the spark plug, the pride radiating from her was almost palpable. It mirrored his own breakthrough, a realization that he was capable of so much more than he had previously recognized. Yet beneath the surface of happiness, the drifting thought of Ava returned. How had their brief interaction impacted him so profoundly? What had initially felt like an insignificant conversation now lingered in his mind like a riddle waiting to be solved. The depths of her encouragement seemed intertwined with his own rediscovery of purpose. As they finished the day with dirty hands and wide grins, Jack felt the weight of two relationships evolving: his bond with his daughter and the burgeoning potential to connect with others like Ava. But how? The question loomed large. That evening, as he tucked his daughter into bed, her eyes fluttering with dreams of engines and adventures, he found himself wondering how to extend this mentoring beyond their home. What skills could he cultivate to help others, in the way he had with her today? He considered the community around him, the colleagues at work, and perhaps even the avenue to reach out to Ava once more. Tomorrow, he resolved, would be about building connections, accepting challenges, and using his voice more fiercely than before. The horizon of his potential sparkled with promise as he mouthed the thought: who might he approach first, and what would it mean to truly embrace the mentor he was beginning to feel he could be? The answers danced just out of reach, stirring his anticipation for the unknown journey ahead. The morning came quickly, the soft buzz of Jack's alarm rendering him awake before he was ready. The plan he had formed last night stirred in his mind, an outline sketched in the edges of his consciousness. Today was the day to take action. Accepting challenges, building connections, his words reverberated within him. He moved through the morning with a newfound clarity, each task infused with a sense of purpose that felt liberating in its intensity. "Are we going to talk to people today?" his daughter asked, her eyes bright with expectation, as she tied her shoelaces at breakfast. He hesitated. The thought of approaching colleagues, reaching out to Ava, those ideas buzzed like restless bees in his mind. "Yes, we are. Today is about making connections," he replied, his voice steady despite the tightening feeling in his chest. With each step towards the office, Jack was acutely aware of the significance of his intentions. He had been a bystander in his professional life for too long. Today would mark the shift from passive observer to engaged participant. As he entered the office building, he held his breath, observing the familiar faces, each holding their own narratives. During the morning meeting, Jack felt the weight of his ambitions settle on his shoulders like a thick coat. Usually, he would remain silent, nodding along as his peers discussed marketing strategies and goals. Today, however, the urge to speak up crackled in his veins. When a lull fell over the group, Jack seized the moment before self-doubt could creep in. "I think we need to consider expanding our outreach efforts," he suggested, his voice a steady hum that cut through the chatter. The collective gaze turned towards him, and his heart raced. For a moment, he felt like a trader in an uncertain market, vulnerable yet invigorated. To his surprise, his colleagues seemed receptive, nodding in agreement. An idea surged forward, and Jack found himself elaborating on ways to leverage social media for community engagement. Each word caught momentum, pushing back against the insecurities that threatened to seep in. He surprised himself with the conclusion, a flush of pride igniting his resolve. After the meeting, Jack sought out Ava, whose office door was ajar. He could hear her deep in conversation over the phone, her voice clear and commanding. He hesitated, wrestling with the uncomfortable nature of the moment. But he recalled the empowering image of his daughter's tiny hands grasping the wrench. It kindled a ferocity within him, compelling him to move forward. "Excuse me, Ava?" He chimed in as she hung up, sensing an opportunity just slightly out of reach. Her gaze shifted, a welcoming brightness illuminating her features. "Jack. Great to see you. What's on your mind?" The conversation flowed, and before he knew it, he was entangled in dialogue around mentorship, corporate dynamics, and professional growth. Her insights offered a refreshing perspective that made him question his past hesitations. What if he genuinely believed in his ability to lead? The conversation uncovered not just her vision but illuminated the paths he could take if he leaned into his strengths. As their exchange deepened, Jack realized they were reflecting the growth he had sought within himself. Ideas bounced around like kinetic energy, and he sensed this wasn't just networking, it was the introduction of potential collaborations. Planning became exhilarating, a fusion of two minds mapping new territory. Later that evening, as Jack arrived home and shared his day with his daughter, he felt buoyed by a conviction he hadn't experienced in ages. "I spoke to Ava today about ideas for the company," he said, a grin stretching across his face. "Was it fun?" she asked, her eyes wide with admiration. "More than fun. It felt powerful." As he tucked her in, he realized that the empowerment he felt was expansive and exhilarating, a platform from which he could launch into connections he had once deemed unreachable. But the shadows of doubt still lurked, not in himself this time but in the unknown potential of these new relationships. What could he achieve if he embraced this role fully? Would he be able to challenge the connections forming with Ava? The questions pulsed in his mind, and he was eager to discover the answers. The pull of opportunity intoxicated him, and he lay awake, contemplating the impact these changes could have not only on his career but on shaping a new legacy for his daughter, one born from authenticity and courage. The next day's challenges loomed large, and Jack was ready to dive into the unknown once again. As dawn broke, Jack felt the weight of anticipation settle heavily in his chest. The night had offered no respite. He wrestled with the possibilities ignited by his conversation with Ava. He had stepped into a new arena of confidence, but with it came the harsh reality of expectations, his own and others. Would he be able to navigate the complexities of these budding professional relationships? The commute to work felt different. Each traffic light was a countdown to his resolve, each moment inching him closer to a pivotal moment. The office loomed ahead, promising both opportunities and obstacles. Upon entering, Jack was greeted by the usual buzz of activity. Yet, the atmosphere felt charged, humming with potential. He remembered the discussion with Ava and how fierce his ambition had surged in the middle of that conference room. Reflecting upon it, he realized that he hadn't just sought validation from his peers, he craved acceptance from himself. The morning passed in a blur of meetings and strategies that felt less daunting than before. Jack found himself actively participating, sharing ideas with greater frequency and fervor. The realization dawned on him that engagement wasn't a mere performance, it was an extension of his burgeoning identity. During a break, he returned to Ava's office, hoping to keep the connection alive. Should he take the initiative to propose a weekly brainstorming session? Wasn't there value in not just one conversation but a series of exchanges? These thoughts flickered like fireflies in the back of his mind. "Hey, Ava, do you have a moment?" he asked, as he glanced around to ensure the moment felt right, a balance of spontaneity and strategy. "Absolutely." She motioned him in, her expression eager. "What's on your mind?" The ensuing discussion flowed naturally as Jack articulated his thoughts on collaboration. "What if we met weekly?" The words jumped out before he could question them. A safe space to throw around new ideas and build on what works. Ava's smile widened, seemingly caught off guard yet intrigued. "That could work beautifully. I love the initiative, Jack. I think it will bring the team together and foster creativity." Rejuvenated by her enthusiasm, confidence washed over him. However, he soon felt a flicker of doubt. Was he becoming too bold too quickly? The question prompted a moment of self-reflection, pushing him to confront his deeper fears, the very notion that he was intruding upon someone more established in their role. But Ava smiled as if reading his thoughts. Building connections doesn't come without risk. It's how we create value. Her words rang like a bell, urging him to embrace the vulnerability that came with ambition. After the discussion, Jack returned to his desk, his mind racing to outline the ideas discussed. Effectively organizing them felt like constructing his own professional blueprint. For the first time in years, he saw his potential unraveling into something tangible, shifting from a mental exercise into pragmatic action. As the day drifted toward the evening, a call from an unexpected source arched his eyebrows. It was his boss wanting to discuss some upcoming projects. The anticipation surged within him, a mix of excitement and dread. Was he ready for this new level of responsibility? What if questions arose about his plans with Ava? Jack composed himself before entering the meeting room. He stepped over the threshold with the resolve he had cultivated. The room's confines felt overwhelming at first, but he reminded himself of the importance of this moment. The conversation unfolded, and surprisingly, his ideas began to take shape under scrutiny. He presented the potential collaborations inspired by his discussions with Ava, attempting to tie in the outreach opportunities he had initially floated in the earlier meeting. As his boss listened, a glint of appreciation flickered in his eyes, leaving Jack to wonder if, just maybe, he was beginning to forge a path not only for himself but for others craving guidance. But what if this opportunity also came with strings attached? The tension grew palpable, his heart pounded, and he faced a new question. Was he ready to confront the complexities of leadership, fully aware of the risks involved? The moment hung over him like a cloud, brewing the decisions that awaited. How far would he be willing to stretch his newfound confidence in the face of critical feedback? As uncertainty threatened to creep back in, Jack braced himself for the challenges ahead. Jack stood at the threshold of transformation. The past few weeks had prompted extraordinary shifts in his life. He could hardly recognize the person he had become. Today, Jack faced the culmination of his journey as he prepared for a pivotal meeting with Ava, reflecting on the personal growth he had achieved. He had strayed far from the man burdened by grief, lost in self-doubt. Each step he had taken since that first conversation with Ava had nurtured newfound confidence and ambition. The fear he once felt had transformed into a resolute embrace of vulnerability. Jack was no longer simply a mechanic, he was becoming a mentor, an advocate for others navigating their struggles. With his heart pounding, he entered the cafe where he and Ava had first brainstormed, the familiar scent of coffee heightening his anticipation. Sitting at their usual table, he recalled the first sparks of possibility igniting within him as he had voiced his desire to mentor others. Would he truly take the leap that awaited him today? Ava arrived moments later, her presence commanding but warm. She greeted him with an encouraging smile that reminded him how far he had come. They began to discuss the initiative they had envisioned, a workshop series aimed at supporting families who faced hardship, a project that encapsulated his vision for creating meaningful change. Together, they had honed every detail, intertwining their expertise to shape something uniquely impactful. Are we ready to present this to the leadership team? Ava asked, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Absolutely, Jack replied, feeling the words resonate emphatically within him. The once daunting prospect of pitching this idea now filled him with exhilaration. He realized he was stepping into a role that drew strength from his experiences, transforming past vulnerabilities into a driving force for positive impact. As they rehearsed their talking points, Jack felt the innate connection forming between their ideas and his newfound identity. The parallels between his daughter's journey in the garage and this larger vision for compassion and growth became clear. He was not just guiding her, he was also cultivating an environment that could help others heal from the weight of their own grief and struggles. The meeting room was buzzing with energy when they entered. Senior executives gathered, awaiting the presentation. Jack's heart raced, but the resonance of purpose within him silenced the chaos. He took a deep breath and positioned himself confidently alongside Ava. As they presented, the atmosphere electrified with each point they made, touching on the value of empathy, teamwork, and resilience. Jack articulated his own story, emphasizing how every setback had fueled his desire to mentor others facing similar challenges. When they finished, applause erupted, and the leadership team buzzed with excitement. The sense of validation was palpable. Jack felt their acceptance, appreciation, and recognition solidify his transformation. It wasn't just about the project anymore. It culminated in his journey of redefining himself. "Jack, your insights are refreshing and inspiring," one executive remarked, leaning forward with a glint of admiration. "I believe you have the potential to lead this initiative forward." The recognition flooded Jack with satisfaction, his heart swelling with pride. He had proven to himself and to others that he wasn't defined by his past failures. Instead, he had established himself as a vital resource for growth, a mentor able to guide others toward a brighter path. After the meeting, Ava turned to him, her eyes sparkling. "I knew you had it in you. This is just the beginning." Jack smiled genuinely, packing newfound confidence into his every step. That day marked the transition not just in his professional journey, but in how he perceived himself, a man ready to lead, to inspire, and to cultivate change. As he returned home, he pondered the resonance of that impactful day. He realized the workshop would help others while solidifying his relationship with his daughter. Embodying the role of the mentor he always yearned to be. The promise of a brighter future shone before him like the beacon he longed for amid the storm of grief. That night, as he glanced at Lily, her sleepy silhouette filled with dreams of adventure and challenge, Jack made a silent vow. He would continue to guide her, help her discover her strengths, and empower her just as he had begun to empower himself. The ties that bound him had loosened, revealing strengths he had hidden for too long. The journey had come full circle. He had stepped into a role that emphasized transformation, empathy, and unwavering support. Now was the time to embrace every opportunity that lay ahead, with a profound sense of purpose guiding him through the unknown. Jack had achieved what once seemed insurmountable. He had stepped into his potential. You need to subscribe now to our channel and not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support is crucial. Comment below your reactions and theories about Jack's transformation. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to spread this powerful message.